Hello, everybody. Give me 1 second. So, we had a special guest today, Mr. Steve Kim, who I've been a fan of for a long time. I've always enjoyed listening to his takes on boxing. I've always, he goes back a long time, and I'm sure we're going to talk about some of that shit. And he's also got a good sense of humor, just like I do. So we're going to have a pretty fun stream here, in my opinion. Or at least I believe so. So I see there's a few people. Tyler, hello. Mr. Pads, hello. Just give him a few minutes. He'll be around in a few minutes. In the meantime, what's up, everybody? Hope everybody's having a good day. Oscar said, "Salute, JB. Get him to send me more snack products, bro. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, you feel nervous? Did I shoot sick?" Oh, yeah. All right, bro. I'll be sure to tell Steve Kim to send you some snack products, bro. Yeah. All right. Yep. You got it, man. Oscar, you fucking kill me, bro. You fucking crack me up, dude. Fuck it. Hope everybody's doing good. And before Mr. Kim gets on here, I just wanted to say thank you to Dick and Carlos and Mark and some of you other guys. You guys know that I had a personal loss in my family as of recently. So as of last night, actually. So everybody that sent me a prayer and said my condolences and all that, I appreciate that, man. So that really means a lot to me. And that really does mean a lot to me, guys. And make sure we're hitting the like in here too, by the way, because I had a little bit of a personal loss last night with my grandmother. It's a tough one, man. She was 94, the Sicilian. She was 94 years old, bro. So, just before Mr. Kim jumps on here, thank you to everybody. Yeah, thank you to everybody that wished me a prayer and sent me some condolences. That really does mean a lot to me because it's going to be a tough time to bury her, man. It's going to be a tough few days for me to bury her. So, Carlos is still going. It's going to be a tough it's going to be a tough. Yeah, she's 94, bro. She was born in 1929. She goes back a ways. So, but I don't want to talk too much about it online, but I don't want to talk too much about it online, but to everybody that said, condolences and sent me a prayer and all of that good stuff, I appreciate you guys because that was a tough one for me. That's a tough one for me to to deal with. So thank you to everybody that did that. That was nice. That was nice of you. I saw her. Not to get into the whole story, but her birthday was like a week ago. And her birthday's in the middle of March. And I saw her and I could kind of tell it was coming. I didn't think it was going to come that soon, but unfortunately it did. But thank you to everybody that, like I say, big thank you to everybody that sent me a prayer and a condolences and all that shit, man. I appreciate it. So thanks. Thanks, Mike. Nazir. Yeah, so I didn't say anything on the YouTube, man. I just said something to our little group our little group of like 20 guys on the Discord. And everybody was real appreciate, real kind-hearted about it. So thank you guys for that. And but Mr. Kim just said to give him a few minutes, so that's what we're gonna do. In the meantime, I'm sure we all watched the Loma Haney. Thanks, Oscar. I'm sure we all watched the Loma Haney shit. She did, brother. She lived a long, good life, bro. That she did, man. That she did, most definitely. So, yeah, like I said, thank you again. But But Mr. Kim just said to give him a few minutes, so that's what we'll do. We'll just shoot the shit. I'm sure everybody watched the Loma Haney press conference today. You know, I mean, yeah, in all honesty. Well, first, let's get him on here, and I got my own questions to ask. And honestly, hit the super chat if you really want me to ask a question that bad, because I know me and him are going to be talking like crazy. So, what's up, Ja Rule? Ask Steve Kim if he honestly believes Canelo. We'll get into all that. We'll get into all that, man. We're gonna get into all that. I got a lot of questions. I want to ask him because I'm sure he's burnt out on talking about it, but I gotta ask him about Fury Usyk. Carlos Rosado, I'm not going back over it again, bro. I'm not. No disrespect. Oh, here we go. Hey, Mr. Kim, how you doing, sir?
Johnny, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to join you to talk a little boxing, chop it up, man. What's going on?
Nothing. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on here. Like I said, I told you thank you a few times, but thank you. I really do appreciate it, Mr. Kim. So
Yeah, I'm just glad Devin Haney finally showed up to the press conference. I didn't want to have to give you a message and say, hey, your favorite guy, Devin Haney, hasn't shown up yet. But, it's boxing. No one ever shows up on time. We got a good lunch out of it. It's going to be interesting. You could see the couple of inches in height and the advantage for Haney. But, I'll be honest with you. I didn't see Loma getting towered over. And I think you put up a tweet earlier. Loma's used to fighting taller, rangier guys. Is he not, Johnny?
Well, that's what I kind of put all the pictures of Luke Campbell and Linares and the Japanese fellow Nakatani. And, I'm like, this isn't some draconian size advantage that he hasn't dealt with before. I think his biggest issue, like we were talking, a couple of days ago, he's got to get to an early start.
Yes.
And I think he, and the jab of Haney's. I think that's the two big obstacles he really needs to overcome.
Johnny, when everyone was waiting for Devin, they Top Rank decided, you know what, Loma, since you're here nice and early, they took him to a corner and they said, okay, whoever wants to do interviews, they could do like a group thing. So everyone got their cameras out. And I asked Vasily, do you have to be a guy that comes forward and gets inside? He didn't want to answer the question as if to say, I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to do that. I actually think, Johnny, if I hear the word, well, I'm just downloading info, that phrase, it's over. Because you can't be down 4-0 in this fight and say, well, I'm just downloading. No, you're losing.
Yeah.
In my view, Johnny, he's got to be an aggressive counterpuncher because there is such a thing as being that. And get inside, break the airspace, and let go short, quick punches from the mid-range. He's got to be able to wear out the legs of Haney early on in that fight if he wants it to pay dividends in the championship rounds.
Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing too. Like, I think that Loma would be best at mid-range in this fight because he's not on the outside where he's going to be eating Haney's jab. And he's not going to be too close to where Haney's going to try to clinch him either.
Johnny, Teddy Atlas has always said, and I've known Teddy for years,
he
believes fighters that allow themselves to get clinched are cooperating. You break your way out of a clinch. You punch your way through a clinch. And sometimes you start subconsciously thinking, oh, my God, here comes a clinch, and you hug the guy right along with you.
Yeah.
Loma has to be really quick off the trigger. I will say this, though. The year that Haney fought both Linares and Diaz, I was at both fights. They were in Las Vegas. One at the Mandalay Bay, one at the MGM Grand.
Mm-hmm.
I saw both of those guys having success late in the fight against Haney. It is not a secret. Devin's a big, strong, growing guy right in front of our eyes. He's expanding. It's a real ordeal to make weight. So he leaves a little bit in the process of the gym and the weight cutting process. And now your weigh-ins are now 30 hours plus, not even 24. But that still doesn't mean you're naturally recovered. So again, if Loma decides to give up the first third or the half of the fight, it's over. From round one, he's got to be able to put steady, quick pressure in his own style against Devin Haney.
Yeah, I was talking about it with some fellas, and we were saying the same thing. Like, even he just needs to come out of the gate and start pressing him. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. But see, the thing is, I think he's smart enough to realize that, though, too.
Yeah.
But whether he can do it or not, it's a different story. But I do think
Johnny, we're going to find out. That fight against Jermaine Ortiz, was it rust or was it corrosion? Because there is a difference. And I asked him, the Jermaine Ortiz fight, was it all of the ring rust? Like, what made that fight difficult? And he pointed out, he says, no, you got to understand, that guy knew me. We had gone so many rounds in the gym that he kind of understood already what he was getting into. I've always said a guy like Loma is so unique. It's not just he's southpaw. The angles that he comes at and the way he shoots at you from the flanks, and he goes up and down with his punches, and he varies his speed, that there was a distinct advantage with Ortiz in a sense that he's already been through it. So he kind of knew what to expect. And again, he just kind of said, look, and the way he said it, and I'm going to put up some clips later, he kind of said, look, I don't think that was really me that night. And let's face it, ring rust is a real thing. He had just gotten back from the Ukraine, coming off the, I don't know for the front lines, but he was involved in that conflict over there in his home country.
Yeah.
And they always say, Johnny, a great fighter always has one last great performance in his back pocket. You'd have to think realistically, this is it. This is his last shot to go undisputed.
And yeah, it is. And that was kind of, he could pull out a Pacquiao Thurman moment here too. You know what I'm saying, Mr. Kim? Not to compare him to Pacquiao. That, to me, that was one of my favorites because, I've been a Pacquiao fan. I'm 30. I've been a Pacquiao fan since I saw him fight Lawaba when I was 10 or whatever. So that was kind of one of my favorites there because there was a lot of people not giving him a chance in that one too. So maybe he'll have a Pacquiao Thurman moment or
Johnny, that's an interesting comparison that you make. I was one of the few people I picked Pacquiao over Thurman because I'll never forget.
So did I.
That January of 2019, when I saw Josecito Lopez buzz Thurman after a long layoff, I said, you know what? Thurman may not be the same guy that we once knew of. And Josecito, I've known him for years. He's a good little tough, hard-nosed scrapper, not the puncher. Yeah, he is not the puncher of Manny Pacquiao, and he stunned him in the first, swept the first 5-6 rounds, jumped ahead, and then he held on for the win. If I'm Loma, I don't pick and choose and prod early. I try to punch hard as I can early on to see exactly where's this kid's chin, what's his punch resistance, and let's work off of that.
And we did see in the two fights you just mentioned too, we did see him get rattled a little bit by JoJo's not a tremendous puncher either. He's also he's also a lefty, a guy that started at featherweight. Like there's a lot of similarities with the JoJo fight that I think I'm like, if you really wanted to kind of analyze that fight, now given Devin might fight a little differently against Lomachenko, but that's probably the closest comparison you're going to get. And if you wanted to look at Loma, I would say watch the Linares fight,
Yeah, and look, I don't profess to know nearly as much about his son or his boxing as Papachenko. But personally, I'm telling Vasily, look, knock him on his heels. Yeah. Make this kid go into a reversed gear because we know this. If he had to weigh in Devin Haney, like the old school days, 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning of the fight, he might be a welterweight. So you already know what physical state that he's coming into. You have to make him put some tread on those tires within the first 4 to 6 rounds and then just keep coming in waves. And I know that's not his natural identity, but I have seen Vasyl Lomachenko, when he has to shift gears, be very, very offensive within that pocket.
Yeah, like speaking of Teddy Atlas, this is what Teddy Atlas always says, to put water in the basement,
Yes.
Yeah.
Dent that body. That body.
Okay, now, I gotta ask this because somebody was asking me to. I know me and you both are probably burnt out on talking about it. Fury Usyk. Who's to blame, Mr. Kim?
Well, I think more of it has to do with Fury. I spoke to Aegis Climates today. It looks like, if long as there's medical clearance, Daniel Dubois, that's going to be the first mandatory. And then they might be able to revisit Fury. But look, here's the issue. All I know is that your track record says a lot about you. It says who you are and what you're going to be.
Yeah.
The track record has been that Usyk has been much more compliant in making fights under difficult circumstances where he's not the A side, as compared to Tyson Fury, who's become very, very temperamental. And I was actually told by somebody he's become a bit of a diva and he wants outrageous money.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone is ever to blame solely, and nobody is ever blameless. But I do know this. If I look at the history and the track record, it seems to me that Usyk was willing to make some concessions. Everyone's going to point the finger at each other, but I would say more of the blame probably goes to Tyson Fury. If the guy was willing to go 70-30, okay, despite being the 3 belt holder, which doesn't always mean that you're worth more, but also going to your country. I will say this. I think the Usyk people may have pushed a little bit too hard in terms of the percentage split for the rematch clause. I don't know if I would have flipped it 30-70 the other way just because you win the first fight. But again, this is why you negotiate. And ultimately, if you gauge the temperature of the public, I believe most people believe that more of the blame, the lion's share, should go to Tyson Fury.
Okay. Yeah, and because I got buddies on here. We've been arguing about it for weeks. Who's this guy? It's this guy's fault, that guy's fault, all that bullshit. So I just wanted to get, kind of, and like I say, we've been talking about it for frickin' 3 or 4 months at this point now. So I'm sure you're kind of burnt out on talking.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I spoke to Bob Arum. I'm going to put this clip up later. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, Bob, okay, so we kind of know Usyk's going to have to take care of a mandatory. Either it's going to be Hrgovic or Dubois.
Yeah.
What does Fury do? And Bob said they're going to look and see what happens Saturday with Anthony Joshua, because whether there's no titles on the line or undisputed or only one belt, like it or not, Fury or Joshua is the biggest box office fight to be made in the world.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah, I agree. And then I would, what was I going to say? I do think that, should all this fall into play? I do think if Usyk were to go in there and for some reason beat Fury, I do think, when they negotiated the rematch, he should probably get a bigger chunk of the pie if you were to beat him. But if you were to lose and Fury became undisputed, well, then now Fury's got every card in the deck,
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I don't know if that's a good thing. I mean, the last time Fury was truly like the champion, he literally disappeared for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Look, I have a lot of respect for Fury's boxing IQ, his ability to operate at that size. Okay. However, his run as the quote unquote linear champion has completely devalued the term of lineal champion. I'm not counting after you retire Sefer Safari. I mean, if you actually look, and I wrote about this, I tweeted this a couple days ago. Do you know out of his last 7 fights, 3 of them have come against Deontay Wilder, and the other 4 are guys like Otto Wallin, Tom Schwartz, Dillian White, and that other British guy, Derek Chisora. It's not like he's taking on Murderer's Row.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I give Canelo a lot of shit, but, compared to Fury, I mean, it's like comparing Leonard to Spence.
It's like Fury to me is a great character, but and he's very charismatic. He delivered some dramatic moments, but he's also, let's just face it, a bit of a bullshit artist.
Yeah,
I mean, he's good at it, and certain people buy it up. And every fan nowadays, whether we like these fighters or not, every fan of a significant boxer, there is a segment of these people that are cultists. I mean, they really look at this. They really look at these fighters as like religious figures. And you can't even give them the most mild criticism. And that's why I've just stopped arguing with people. And I said, if you come up like a cultist, I'll just mute you. I'm not going to block you, but I don't want to hear your shit.
Mr. Kim, see, that's why when I'm on there or I'm on here, when I'm on the Twitter or I'm on here, I just once in a while, I just like kicking the hornet's nest. So I'll say something about Canelo because they get so they get so fucking mad. They get so fucking mad. I'm like, hey, and this is my honest opinion. Hey, I thought he lost the first 2 Triple G fights. Oh, you're full of shit. Fuck you. You're a racist. Oh, okay. All right.
I think with Canelo, it's one of the most interesting dynamics is that he's one of the most scrutinized fighters, but he's also one of the most worshipped. And I think it's hilarious when you put up that Mexican flag with Dimitri Bivol in the middle.
Dude, and I'm from Waukegan, Illinois. The majority is Mexican people. My ex-fiance is that passed away is Mexican. So it's just I just do it to stir people up and they get so offended. Like, come on.
And to be fair, Johnny, when people question Canelo's resume and they bring up all these fighters and Coach Malachi Williams did a great job today of saying, well, okay, let's take a look at Canelo's last 8 fights and compare them to your favorites. We have to be honest about it. His resume laps, not just laps these other guys like Charlo and Andrade and all these other guys begging for fights. Let's just be clear about it.
Especially over the Charlo and Andrade. Well, and I always said with Charlo and Andrade, why don't you 2 dudes just fight each other and the winner can have their shot at Canelo?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about Charlo? And we're talking about Jamal, the middleweight.
The bigger one, yeah.
Yeah, in about 2 months, he's coming up on a full 2-year layoff, which means any talk of him fighting a serious name, because I even hear his name being mentioned for Benavidez, and I'm like, yo, he's going to need 2 tune-ups to be ready for that windmill.
Right.
So let's be honest. I just don't understand that. And the one thing about Bivol Andrade, who I really like personally, going all the way back when he made that terrible decision to back out of the Jermell Charlo fight. And then he left as original promoters to go with Rock Nation. That was back in 2014. His career has never recovered from that. But here's a fact, whether you agree with it or not. He could have fought Zach Parker for that interim slot that became a mandatory that John Ryder picked up. Right. Nobody wants to mention that. And originally, he was supposed to get $1 million. Then something happened, and then the money shrunk because it went to a purse bid or something. This is all on Demetrius. He didn't fight his way to a career. He really didn't. Like Winky Wright, if you look at Winky Wright, he had to spend much of his early years in Europe barnstorming as a perennial B-side. Black guy from Tampa area. Nobody really liked him. Even American fans thought he wasn't that exciting. But over a course of time, 45, 50 fights, he began to really craft a career. Nowadays, Winky Wrights, they become Demetrius Andres. It's kind of sad, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and Winky, I'm because that was really when I was like a teenager and stuff. Winky, he fought everybody, man. He was a damn good fighter. I mean, he fought peak Jermaine Taylor, Mosley twice, Hopkins.
Fernando Vargas, he may have gotten robbed.
Right. Yeah, he did get robbed in that fight. He did get robbed. As far as Canelo goes, Mr. Kim, now you tell me, should he, because and I'll just be honest with you. The only reason I don't want to see a Bivol rematch is because I don't want to see him get screwed on the cards.
Yeah.
Johnny,
can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I'll never forget. So last year I had a ringside press row seat. I'm sitting next to Donald McRae, great writer out of the UK. My old buddy Doug Fisher, Mike Coppinger. So we're all there, right there. We had great seats.
Yeah.
We all had it 10-2, 9-3. We thought it was the easiest fight to call.
Same.
So we're all starting to type our stories. We're like, okay, good. No controversy. This is good. Nice and easy. Especially with the way Bivol won that last round.
Yeah. And
when they said, okay, all 3 scorecards, when they said 115, 113, I almost got whiplash looking over at Donald McRae saying, oh, they're not doing this shit, are they? And the fact that Dimitri needed to win that 12th round or it would have been a draw is scandalous to me.
And that's why I'm like, okay, that's why I'm like, dude, you know, if they're gonna fight again, like, he's really gonna have to overachieve in that fight. I mean, he did great. I mean, like you said, me, you, and most of the other knowledgeable guys that know how to score a boxing match, right, had it 10-2, 9-3. And, you know, all these guys.
You know what's interesting? Joel Diaz, who a lot of the fighters that are managed by that group, led by Vadim Kornilov, and I visited Bivol before that fight last year, about 3 weeks before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. Joel Diaz worked that corner. And he earned his money that night because after the 11th, you're thinking the fight's over. He told, because I know Joel very well, great guy. He said to Dimitri, we are in Vegas. You better act like you need a knockout. Now, I'm just telling you the way Bivol is, his personality, and the fact, the style of boxer that he is. I think he would have been content to just box on his back foot and say, hey, I won. Joel Diaz said, no. We are in Vegas. This is professional boxing. You win this damn round.
Right.
He earned his money.
Yeah, right. He had to earn it. Exactly. And that's the kind of only thing I'm like, dude, you know, if they do it again, I just don't want to see him some scandalous shit happen, like you just mentioned, Mr. Kim.
You know what I don't like, though, Johnny?
Yeah.
And this is what frustrates me about the game, and I wrote something about this in part 2 of the Boxing is Broken series for Ring Magazine. Mm-hmm. 2 of my very favorite fighters who are very authentic and I think are very much elite are Dimitri Bivol and Regis Prograis.
Yeah.
We are about 3 days from April. They don't have a fight.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
Get going here.
Yeah. What the hell's going on over here?
My next story is about how, Johnny, if you chart the last 3 years, not counting 2020 because there was the lockdown. So throw that year out. So if you look at the year-end edition of Ring Magazine in December, January, and you look at their top 10 Ring Magazines, pound-for-pound list, and you go to 19, 21, and 22, our elite fighters, they don't even fight twice a year on average. They really don't. They fight on average about 1.5 times. So most of these guys only fight once a year now. And I don't know how you move the sport when me and you love watching certain guys, we get them once a year. You can't develop anything.
Yeah, I mean, even with Usyk, who I'm obviously a big fan of.
He's become a once a year guy. Johnny, I don't know if you read my article today for Snack. You look at Anthony Joshua. You know, you should read that because you know that this coming Saturday for Anthony Joshua, it's the first time in about 3 years he's facing somebody not named Alexander Usyk.
Yeah.
The last guy he fought that was not named Alexander Usyk was at the end of 2019, and I believe it was Kubrat Pulev.
It was Pulev.
So we're not even seeing a variation of opponents. It's like watching Police Academy 8, 9, and 10. It's like, shit, can we get some different shit now, like Fast and Furious? I don't. That's why I am so opposed to modern day boxing having rematch clauses. We don't see enough good fights as it is. I don't need to keep seeing the same fights over and over again.
Yeah, well, and especially like, you know, I'm obviously a big Loma guy, but even like with the Kambosos rematch, do we really need that?
No. And you know what's funny? I wrote about how in today's boxing, we get stuck with pointless rematches like Loma, like Haney and Kambosos. And George Kambosos, who he got pissed off at me. And I just said, look, with all due respect, that deal was great for you. You got 2 paydays out of it. I don't get a percentage. It ain't good for us. We're not shareholders.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with Bivol. My understanding is Bivol is going to fight somebody on June 17th. But what I don't like about this game is that they have basically been held hostage by their own victory over Canelo last year because of the specter of the rematch. My view is this: just move on with your career. Like I'm just telling you, Johnny, I like the fact that Benavidez' father has said, no, we're not chasing Canelo. We got our own 3-fight plan against David Morrell, Charlo. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Now you're trying to build something. You're not just begging. Respect. We need more of that.
Respect with that. And that's, you know, and that's good on him, because a lot of the younger guys you don't see doing that either. They just they'll get like one contender, beat him, and then say, okay, I want the best, you know, like you gotta
Johnny, no one builds a resume anymore. And say what you want about Canelo.
Yeah.
He's going to be close to 70 fights by the time he retires. He's already at about 63, 64, right? Here's the thing. Moving forward, our next generation of real elite pound-for-pound guys like Shakur Stevenson, who's a gifted young boxer, look at their record. They're already twice-a-year guys without even having 20 fights. We may not even have 40-fight careers anymore. How do you develop a star if the public never sees you? Think about this. Mayweather had 37 fights and won 4 world titles before he got De La Hoya.
Right.
People do not talk about how much work Floyd put into that career before he became money. And all of these guys, Ryan Garcia only fought twice last year. Tank only fought once.
Yeah. And it's funny. And another one, and especially when I was a kid too, was De La Hoya. De La Hoya freaking, but by the time he was 25, he was already a 4-weight champion. He had a bunch of mega fights with Trinidad and Mosley and Ike Corte and all these
1997, I wrote a big story when I was at ESPN, and it's the last busy year for an elite fighter. Think about this. De La Hoya in June of 96 has that iconic matchup, which really launched him into superstardom. He beats up Chavez, cuts him up in 4. Takes the rest of the year off, but in 1997 has the biggest name in boxing. So I don't want to hear about, well, guys are making so much money, they don't have to fight. I think that's a bit of a cop-out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But in 1997, De La Hoya fought 5 times as the biggest name in boxing. He fought Miguel Angel Gonzalez, Pernell Whitaker, David Kamau, Hector Camacho, Wilfredo Rivera. And it can be done.
Here. And that's in 1 year.
In 1 year. 4 pay-per-views. The Kamau fight was on HBO. And every fight, he and Arum basically started off the negotiations at 0. In other words, every fight had a different value, and they would negotiate off of that. Nowadays, guys are stuck with their minimums, and a lot of these managers will tell you, no, we're not ever going backwards on money, even if you're fighting King Kong, Godzilla, Hello Kitty, or Steve Kim. And it makes no sense. None. Because I know for a fact, a lot of these fighters, like Virgil Ortiz, their managements are turning down 6-figure tune-up fights. And then they complain, well, I'm not being kept busy. Yeah, by you. Had nothing to do with Golden Boy. It's you.
Well, and that's the thing too. That's another thing too. Like if you're fighting 3 or 4 times a year, obviously everybody you fight's not going to be the number 1 or number 2 dude in the division, but you need to keep busy and keep your name up and keep your name going on.
Johnny, let me just tell you something.
Yeah.
I see that Miami Dolphins pennant in the back. I know you're a sports fan of other teams.
Yeah.
Do you think every NFL team plays a playoff team? No, they play some bums. You don't think LeBron James has easy games? But they have a schedule. Here's the thing. I put up the box rec picture with the record of Julio Cesar Chavez with his records like 107, 6-2, and with the caption, now this is a career. And people took it as saying he's the greatest ever. And a lot of people went nuts. And well, he fought a lot of cab drivers using that old line from Greg Hogg. And that wasn't the point. The point is this guy stayed sharp, and he didn't have to ever overtrain or cut a lot of weight because he was so sharp because he kept getting back into it. I have talked to more trainers, more strength and conditioning coaches, more fighters that'll tell you, looking back, the way you're doing it now, Johnny, where guys are fighting twice a year and they have to knock out 45 pounds and spar over 150 rounds, that's probably more dangerous than fighting more often.
Right. Yeah.
If you've ever sparred, and I know you have, Johnny, when you get banged up with headgear, it does not protect you from getting jarred. You can get knocked out with headgear. People do not realize that.
I've been hurt bad with headgear where your head's just ringing 2 days later.
Yes. It's a buzzing sensation.
And I'm
skull.
Tell you now, it's been a while, but I still remember going through the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys and I've been in the gym. It's the last couple of weeks. These guys are like saying, oh my God, we're still 20 pounds over. And then they use the plastic suits the whole workout, which is the worst thing you can do. Those suits are just dangerous. They should ban those things, but you can't ever enforce it. And guys like Freddie Roach told me in 1980 as a young prospect, he fought 11 times. Most of the fights were at the Silver Slipper in Las Vegas, club show when he was a young kid. He said, Steve, you know what? That's the easiest year I had in boxing. He goes, halfway through the year, I didn't even have to ever spar. I was so sharp, and I was always on weight. And De La Hoya said 97 was the easiest year he had. Also, James Toney. I know James very well. James Toney is the last great American fighter to take, as a world champion, to have non-title fights. So he'd fight on HBO in 1 month. 5 weeks later, he'd be on like Fox Sports or ESPN's Friday Night Fights or some local station. And he said, look, I took pay cuts. I always got paid at least six figures. But you know what? It kept me out of a lot of trouble because I should have done that more often. But I don't know if that system is even available for today's boxers. So in many respects, I think they're victims of this whole culture.
Yeah. My buddy Brian just asked this in the chat, and I have to ask this because I know this is another thing I've been debating with a lot of people. The Bivol okay. What in a perfect world, which it's not, wouldn't we see Benavidez, Canelo, and Bivol Beterbiev?
Yeah. Look, here's the issue, I think, with Beterbiev. He's already 38, and I saw a guy that is still impressively strong, very powerful, but his reaction time and the way he reacted towards the punches of Anthony Yard, I saw a guy that may be leveling off physically.
He's slipping a little bit.
Yeah.
I was thinking this. I was thinking the same thing. But my question, because I know people will be like, why didn't you ask him? What's the thing preventing that fight?
It's the television. It's the television situation in one sense that, and I wrote about this in the Boxing is Broken Part 1 on Ring Magazine, which was on the free online edition. That's one of the fights that I listed as being a victim of the current system of boxing, where Beterbiev is aligned with Top Rank, which means all of his fights the last few years have been with ESPN. And then if you look at Bivol, who's been aligned with his lead promoter's World of Boxing, but he's really with Matchroom. Yeah. All his fights have been on the Zone.
Right.
So here's the problem. Each network is saying, okay, if you're going to face each other, it's got to be on our network. And this is the problem with that fight. Guys like me and you think it's the greatest fight we can be made in boxing, right?
It's one of them, yeah, right.
Problem is the general public does not know them, so you can't even do a neutral pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So it falls right into that no man's land of it's a great fight and nobody else cares except me, you, and this audience. That's the problem.
And see, and that's what I was kind of trying to stress the point of that yes, it's a great fight. And I think they both want it. I wouldn't, it's not like one of these guys are scared of the other one, but it's just the fact that they are on two different networks and you'd have to do a joint
pay-per-view, right? And then it'd be a pay-per-view. And so I don't know how you figure that one out, at least with Ryan and Tank. Look, they're both pretty big matinee idol stars with real followings, and they're both American. These guys aren't. They're Russian.
Yeah.
And that's another, like, I was there in Philadelphia when Gavozic got worn down late by Beterbiev in Philadelphia. It was a fantastic fight. They tried to promote the hell out of it in Philadelphia. It was at the Licoris Center, the basketball venue for Temple, right? Now that I look at Temple University, I'm lucky I made it out alive, but that's another story. But the thing is, they only had about 3,500 people. And Philadelphia used to be a fight city. It's not anymore. And I give them credit, Top Rank and Russell Peltz, because he helped them out locally. I don't know what more they could have done to get a bigger crowd. Short of maybe going to Europe, because a lot of those Europeans, they love boxing more than we do as a general public. That's the truth.
Yeah. And I remember, speaking of Montero, who me and you were both buddies with, Montero had said that too. I remember he had mentioned that a couple of times, that the home for boxing here in America has kind of shifted from the East Coast and the older cities in Chicago and New York and Philly.
Yeah, we lost the cities, Johnny,
to the West Coast and Texas. And
Johnny, you know what happened though?
Yeah.
Once the advent of casinos, and specifically Las Vegas and later Atlantic City, it created this artificial market where if a casino just wanted to bring over a fight, they paid this exorbitant amount. Then all of a sudden, cities like Chicago, Miami, Philadelphia, where you'd have homegrown talent against other homegrown talent, you'd have real rivalries. It started to erode. And I don't like this whole trend of everyone trying to go to the Middle East now, because that is a short-term play. I get it. You're going to have the occasional big heavyweight fight. That should be once or twice a year.
Right.
But you start doing it more than that, Johnny, one of the great ways you develop a fan base and how you create new interest in the sport, you better allow guys like you to actually be able to drive and go to a fight and enjoy that night and go with some friends and have people say, wow, this is kind of fun. But if everything just becomes Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia, you might as well have that shit in a television studio.
Right.
What's the difference?
And that, yeah, well, and and I've got my own personal stuff going, that I'm not going to get into, but yeah, and I'm sure you've heard a little bit of it, but and yeah, I have to ask the last thing about Bivol Beterbiev with the WBC mandating or saying, or Suleiman saying that Bivol can't fight for their title because he's of Russian citizen. Is that another barrier for them?
I guess. I mean, what the? It's like, give me a break. I don't understand. What's that got to do with the price of tea in China? And first of all, Dmitry Bivol is a Russian, I guess. But if you really know his background, his mother is Korean, his father is Moldovan, and he wasn't even born in Russia.
But
and then Beterbiev has been living in Montreal for about 10 years. I hate when Suleiman, and I actually like Mauricio, but this is just virtue signaling. This is just complete bullshit what he's doing. Stay the hell out of politics.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's kind of, it was just like, really, you're going to throw another barricade into a big fight that everybody wants to see. It's already probably not going to happen, but then you got to top it off with that. Like, really, that's
And you know what's funny? I guarantee you, if Canelo suddenly said, you know what? I want Beterbiev. Trust me, that Russian ban would come down like the Berlin Wall. That's the truth. And so I'm just like, come on. Can we separate sport from politics just once?
It's funny you say that, and not to get into a whole thing, but sometimes I can't even watch Sports Center anymore.
Because I don't anymore. I don't at all.
Because I watch boxing, I watch football, and if the White Sox are doing good, I'll watch some baseball, right? And and I'll keep an eye on the baseball a little bit too. But I'm not there to hear about the politics. I just want to hear about the sports. Tell me who's fighting, tell me who's injured in football, and tell me, give me the rundown. That's all I need to know. I don't want to know.
Well, Johnny, I worked at ESPN for 2 years, and from the inside, I saw the agendas and the political influences that they try to foist upon everybody and to become a mouthpiece for that. Yeah. And how you have to be highly liberal. Let's just call that for what it is. And I said, I'm getting out of here. Outside of live sporting events, and basically at this point in my life, it's basically college football, Miami Hurricanes, and boxing. That's it. I kind of keep it simple, to be honest with you. I don't even know if I'm going to watch the Final Four this weekend because they do all sports broadcasts now. They seem to inundate you with a certain messaging that has nothing to do with sports. So, I don't know what else to really say. And when I see Mauricio say, well, we're going to ban Russian fighters from our rankings, I like him. And I would just ask him, Mauricio, how in the world does this make an iota of difference at all? Honestly.
Yeah, it's like it just felt very unnecessary, Mr. Kim, is kind of what I'm getting at, So, what the hell? Now, what do you make of, to change the subject a little bit, what do you make of the Tank Ryan fight? And I know we've talked a little bit about it, but
I will say this. If this fight, and I have not really changed my mind from when me and Mario talked about it on the 3 knockdown rule about 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
If this was a historical event, this fight would be Tiananmen Square. The Tank is going to run him over, and the one advantage that Ryan had in this year was a growing body, size and height, and with that weight clause that they put in, that they shoved down everyone's throat, including Golden Boy, where they couldn't even negotiate on behalf of their guy, they gave away their physical advantages. I think eventually Tank just runs him over. I say TKO between 7, 8, and 9.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking somewhere in the middle rounds because that to me, yes, he's got fast hands, but he is a little bit fragile, Ryan, and especially if you're taking one of the few advantages he does have away in that fight, it's just going to sway it all the way in his favor. The only thing I would say is that Tank might have to get through a little bit of an early barrage from Ryan with the left hook and the hand speed. But if he gets past that, it's his fight. That's
Johnny, if you look at Tank's fights, he loses a lot of rounds for a guy that's supposedly, according to some people, a pound for pound, and he's probably top 15-ish. I don't think he's top 10. He just simply loses too many rounds.
Yeah.
But they've engineered his fights where he's the bigger, stronger guy in so many ways. Someone sent me a video of Ryan Garcia right now, and they say he's 142.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny, he looks like one of those malnourished kids that Sally Struthers was trying to feed late at night. For only 83 cents a day, you could feed this poor kid. And I'm kind of looking at this video, and I'm like, good Lord. His body looks so thin and stretched out. I'm thinking, how are you going to find an extra 6 pounds to chip away at that thing?
My brother, Undercard Boxing. Thank you for the super chat, my brother. He said I always pay my bets. Oh yeah, we had a little money on playing Benavidez. Thank you, brother. Yeah, good.
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching. Thank you, bro. Yeah, I that was another one. You know what? I have to say, I was pretty happy with the Benavidez Plant thing. I was. It was. I mean, I don't think it should have been $75 pay-per-view, but the fights were good for the most part. I thought Rayo should have probably got the nod against Colbert, but it was close. And the Plant Benavidez fight, it had a little bit of a throwback feel to it with the bad blood and, and the animosity and that. And the fight turned out to be pretty good itself. So
I mean, the one thing with Plant, and I'm a big fan of Stephen Breadman Edwards, good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He really believed for them to have a shot, and he thought they did. At a certain point, Plant had to really become not the puncher, but an authoritative puncher that really sat down and turned on his shots and turned it over with conviction. Never landed that punch, Johnny. So even as he's winning early rounds, as they say, he won battles. But even when it was like maybe 5-2 or 6-1, that 8th round, I just said, uh-oh. If that 8th round would have been the 10th, I think he could have found it home to shore. But the fact it was round 8, I remember I was with Coach Malachi. He does a great show, and I said, Coach, that's too early for Plant to be wavering like that. In 9, 10, 11, 12, he got beat to a pulp, all the big rounds, went to Benavidez. And I'll say one thing about Benavidez. I know look, people can point out flaws. He's a little bit upright. He gets squared up. Punch frame is a little bit wide, and he's a little bit upright as he comes forward. Doesn't do a great job of tucking in his chin. But that pressure and how relentless he is, and he's heavy-handed, and he punches in volume. Look, there are certain fighters throughout history you could pick out their flaws blindfolded. People used to say the same thing about Rocky Marciano. But you know what the problem was? You couldn't hold that SOB off for 15 minutes, 15 rounds. He would bust you down.
Yeah,
he would. You could win a lot of rounds against Marciano, and at the end of 10 rounds, you're thinking to yourself, holy shit, I got 5 more against this animal.
And for those that know their history a little bit, that's what happened with him and Joe Walcott.
Yep, exactly.
Joe Walcott was winning that fight. Then the last 11th, 12th, 13th round, he was getting caught, and then that's it.
If championship fights were 8 rounds, Caleb Plant might be the best fighter in the world.
Right.
But we go 12.
Exactly.
Oh, we go 12.
Exactly. So, okay. Then there was something else. So we talked Ryan Garcia. We talked Loma, Haney, Usyk, Fear, Bivol. What's going to go on with Regis Program? Speaking of Regis Program.
Well, I don't know. You know what? I tell you, I keep in touch with his management a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to second guess. And I know that hindsight is 20/20, Johnny, but when they lost that razor thin, great fight to Josh Taylor, right. In the tournament,
Great fight.
Everyone thought they were going to sign with Top Rank. I actually saw Regis at one of the Top Rank fights right after that. I think it was the night that Kovalev fought Canelo. And it was Miguel Burchelt who battered Sosa that night. And I just thought, oh, okay, it's going to happen. They have some 40-pounders. He fits in.
Right.
But they took that big money from Probellum, which ended up kind of being a mirage in the desert. And it's really a shame because, look, I admire Jose Ramirez, but that's a flat-out duck the way he did not fight Rougarou.
Thank you.
And ESPN should have told Top Rank, you're not giving us Richard Comey. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We are now at the stage of boxing. Guys are turning down title shots. That is ridiculous to me.
That's
bad. So I feel bad for Regis, but at the same time, I wonder if he had it to do over again, just do the easy thing and sign with Top Rank, you'd be right in the mix. I want to say this right now. Agree. I don't care who the champion is. I don't care who won 3 years ago. I think Regis is the best junior welterweight in the world, and he's being consciously avoided by a whole division and a whole promotional company. I said it.
I think so too. And I said back then and that Taylor fight really could have went, either
way.
Yeah. And it was a great fight. But I said back then, I'm like, boy, I hope he does sign with Top Rank because the majority of the guys at the time were Taylor, Ramirez, Zepeda, Postal at the time. I'm like, boy, I hope he goes over there.
Right.
That's where all the action's at,
And Johnny, I read something where Jack Catterall may be going to Matchroom, and they're saying, well, okay, and they're going to match Catterall with Sandor Martin. And I'm like, oh my God, did Regis just get left at the altar again?
Yeah, that's a shame because I know now everybody's talking about having him and Matias. I mean, that would be a
great fight. What a bloodbath. By the way, I like Subriel Matias. That's another guy that's like a Marciano.
Yeah.
You may be able to hit him. You may be able to box him for a while. But that guy is an avalanche of leather. He's a hard nose. I was ringside, unfortunately, for that fateful night. I had to go to the hospital with Maxim Dadashev. And I've seen the relentless pressure that guy brings on. I will say this, though. If they would fight right now, I do think Regis is a little bit more precise and compact down the middle. And he's a real puncher. So I would still favor Regis Prograis right now, slightly, maybe 60-40 against Matthias.
That was kind of my thoughts exactly. I right now, I mean, we'll see what if they end up meeting down the line and see how they're looking, of course. But as of right now, I would still probably give the nod to Prograis. But boy, would he have his hands full with that Puerto Rican gangster. Oh my goodness. But and then Inoue Fulton. Did they ever say what the injury?
Yeah, it's a left hand injury. Hand injury.
Yeah,
and they just they're going all the way to July. And I think maybe it works because look, I will give boxing credit. You look at this upcoming schedule; it's a strong schedule, and there's a lot of fights coming up in the next 5 to 6 weeks. A really good concentration of fights, even with Usyk and Fury going to Bolivian, as Mike Tyson would say. So look, plenty of time, and I really think the winner of that fight has to be considered universally among the top 2 or 3 fighters in the game. But the one thing that would worry me about Fulton is now going to come off a full year layoff. He has not fought since last June, Johnny. Keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah. Danny Roman, right?
Yes.
And and honestly, I think they kind of caught a silver lining with that. With Inoue Fulton getting pushed back a little bit. I'm glad it got rescheduled and everything because it's one of the best fights in boxing. But it seemed like they were kind of almost grouping these things too close together because you would have had the Canelo fight the night before, and then a week and a half later, you would have had Loma Haney. So I think they almost caught a little bit of a blessing.
Yeah. Look, a fight like that with smaller fighters in a foreign country, I don't care if Canelo is beating up on a piñata. It's still Canelo. That's going to dominate the news cycle. That's just the way look. Having worked at ESPN, I know the way it works. I could say, hey, I want to do something on Inoue. They'll be like, no. Canelo's fighting. You're going to write about. I know the way it works, guys. Right. Trust me. This stuff matters.
Well, and that's kind of why I when Chocolatito or Nonito or Estrada or Bam Rodriguez or Ahmed Ali or one of these guys are fighting, I really try to do some videos on it and do a stream on it because those guys deserve more praise than they get, you know. So those,
and Inoue is a guy that I've told Top Rank, you guys have not. And again, unfortunately, the pandemic of 2020, he was one of the first real casualties. Because if you remember, he was supposed to fight in a bantamweight unification with Casimero at the Mandalay Bay on April 25th that year, centered around the NFL draft with ESPN. That was a hot ticket. My buddy who's in that field, Jim Boone, said, Steve, this thing is blowing up. This guy could be the next Pacquiao type of Asian guy. And then it got wiped from the board.
Dude, I was April 25th is my birthday, Mr. Kim. I was so fucking excited for that fight. And I was like, no. I was like, there's no way they called that. I was like, you gotta be kidding. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, oh, that's a little birthday present for me right there, you know. And I was like, damn, it's a damn shame that.
And you know what's funny though, Johnny? I really think it's a shame that Inoue makes so much money on that Amazon Prime deal in Japan. I mean, he makes a lot of yen. I mean, the yen is flowing. That I don't know if he's ever going to fight in the U.S. again.
Yeah, that's. You know, I don't know the details like you do, but from my understanding, he's making a killing over, you know, fighting over there. Yeah, just, you know. So, I mean, can I, all right, if you don't want to say, it's fine, but can you tell me who you favor in that Inoue Fulton, or do you
I kind of like Inoue. Look, he's on his home turf, and the one thing that people are overlooking, Inoue is a great puncher. I also think he's a little bit faster and quicker than Fulton. Fulton is a real technician, really slick. People overlook Inoue's speed, and he's got great feet. And he's able to get into positions and let off fast punches. And I 3 years ago in 2019, I forgot after which fight. I actually said on the ESPN pound for pound list, I said Inoue is Ichiban. That's the best fighter in the world. And I talked to Antonio Nieves, who fought him at the StubHub Center. And I talked to Rudy Hernandez, who's one of my most trusted sources. He's the brother of Gennaro Hernandez, the late, great Chicanito, one of my best friends, who's taught me a lot about business. He's the UFC cut man. He trains fighters like Junto Nakatani, who's going to be the next great Japanese champion. He's fighting Maloney on the undercard of Haney Loma, by the way. So don't miss that.
Oh, that's on the undercard of that?
Yes, that is on that same night. So
that's a good one.
Junto is a really talented kid.
Junto's good, man. I wanted to see, I wanted to see him and Sonny Edwards fight.
Yeah, and you know what Rudy said? He said, Rudy said, Steve, Inoue is the best blend of speed and power we have. And Rudy's one of those guys. It's like outside of like three guys, everyone else to him just can't fight. He's just an old school guy, but he says Inoue is special. Yeah. Inoue is special.
Yeah, I mean, I was showing my dad because my dad's not, you know, he's 70 years old. You know, he's got kid cancer. He's been through cancer, so he's not like up to date on it as much as, of course, as like, you know, like you were. But I showed him clips of Inoue. He's like, Jesus, man, that kid is really special. You know.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is that Inoue made a really good move late last year. He actually came to America and decided to spar American fighters to get a different look. And Doug Fisher actually wrote a really good story on it. Inoue has rare speed and power. That's what Nieves said. Look, most fighters are either very, very good punchers or strong, or they're very, very fast and quick. Very few are special in the fact that they can combine both. Now, one thing that was a little bit eye-opening, and maybe it's a bit of a mirage based on the length and the size, it actually surprised me, Johnny, how many times Brandon Figueroa touched up Fulton. I remember watching that fight saying, Figueroa's kind of a grinding, slow, methodical guy. Maybe it's about the size and his length, but I said, Inoue is a sharp, fast, compact puncher who wastes no motion. And he's quick.
And I think Inoue gets stuck with he's a come forward brawler stigma a little bit too much. when he really does have great fundamentals and really good boxing skills and good hand speed and feet. And I think people overlook that and just look, oh, he comes forward and knock guys out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think I would make Inoue the favorite. But again, Fulton is your classic hard-nosed, athletic Philadelphia fighter. But then again, at the same time, look, we don't know how it's going to affect him, but this is going to be about a 13-month layoff coming in with his matchup with the Monster. Not exactly the most ideal set of circumstances to fight a guy on his home turf.
Yeah, that's pound for pound top 2 or 3 at the moment, too, on top of that, too, right? And then hits like that, and he's at home. That's kind of what I was, getting at that. So let me ask you this, Mr. Kim. Going into the second half of the year, what are some fights you would like to see get made now that we got to know? I know Fury, Usyk, whatever, but what Fury Usyk fell apart. But we got the Loma Haney fight. We got the Ryan Tank. We got the Inoue Fulton. What are some fights you would like to see going forward?
It's interesting. A lot of what's going to happen in the second half is going to be based on what happens in the next 3 months. So I want to see Bivol. I don't know if I necessarily want to see the Canelo fight again. I'd like to see him fight Beterbiev. I talk to the Bivol camp pretty regularly. I get the sense that they want the money. They all want the money. This is what they're in.
Yeah.
They want to fight Beterbiev sooner rather than later. They feel as though the time is right for that particular fight. As a pure boxing purist, I would much rather watch that fight than a repeat of Canelo Bivol. Fury against Usyk, I still think has to happen. I think it is such a letdown that fight is not part of the first half of the 2023 schedule. Again, should Usyk take care of either Dubois or Hrgovic, they are open to negotiate it again. And this time around, I think Saudi Arabia would be much more amenable in the wintertime to host that event. Bob told me something really interesting. I didn't know because I'm not privy to the details, but he said for Usyk, when he negotiated with the Saudi Arabian cartel or whatever you want to call it, he was getting about 50 to 60 million on his end.
Oh, wow.
The money went all the way down to only 12 to 15 for England. So that's a lot of money. Look, we could say it's still 12 to 15, yeah, but 50 to 60 is 50 to 60.
You're losing 30 or 40 mil off of it, just switching from locations, right?
Right. So
yeah,
maybe in the second half you get that started again. By the way, I was told about 2 weeks ago, Crawford Spence is actually being discussed. I think there's actually a sense of urgency to do it. They took a lot of heat. My understanding is that Crawford does not want his mandatory defense against Alexis Rocha to go to a purse bid because he was underwhelmed by Golden Boy's bid to make that fight. Golden Boy decided they're not going to be like BLAK Prime. They're not going to throw stupid money out there. And I think there's a realization from Crawford. Either I go to a purse bid and I may make a lot less money than I'm used to, or I could fight Spence and try to finally clean up that division. Johnny, in my view, if you look at this again, Errol Spence is going to be coming off a year-plus layoff. He has not fought since last April 15th or 16th against Yordenis Ugas.
It's Ugas, yep.
At least Crawford, who generally stays in better shape in between fights, fought in December, right?
Right.
If I'm Bud, I'm trying to make that fight right now.
Yep, that would be a good. It would be a good time to catch Spence. I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Kim. Yeah, I mean, that I say this all the time with Crawford and Spence. I just got, it's one of them things like, just tell me when it's set, bro.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but, if you, hopefully they get it worked out. I mean, obviously you and I and everybody here would still watch. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, knock on wood. And
here's another fight I would like to see, Johnny, now that I think about it. Again, the improvement of Tim Tszyu in one fight was striking. I want to see him fight Jermell. I think that fight went from a 75-25 to about a 60-40, 55-45 for Charlo, but that gap is closing.
Yeah.
Tim Tszyu is a really clever craftsman with a lot of power. And I actually think him not fighting Charlo when he did is a blessing in disguise. He needed to fight a guy like Harrison, and those rounds I think will prove to be valuable. So I'd like to see that in the second half of the year.
That would be nice to see. And I picked Tony to win that fight, Mr. Guy. I remember and I was like, because I was like, okay, well, he didn't look great against
Gaucher.
Tony's got a lot of experience. He had that questionable decision over Charlo, but he got the nod. He gave him a tough fight in the rematch. He's got, he's been in there with Jared Hurd. He's got a lot more experience. He's taller. He's got the better jab. So I was like, I think Tony might pull this off. And I know some of that might have been Tony getting a little past it, to be fair. But in the same breath, you can't take, Tim, so we've never seen Tony.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. Tony Harrison may have aged overnight, and that happens, right? Especially the older guys. But Tony Harrison, in his 3 other losses, which, by the way, were all stoppages, he was actually, I think, leading or winning or had won a lot of rounds. He won almost no rounds against Tim Tszyu.
Yeah, I gave him 1 round, and I think I gave him 1 swing round. I think I gave him the 4th or something like that.
Yeah, the way Tim just controlled the distance with steady pressure and kind of like artfully smothered him without actually being right next to him, and then ran him into hard, straight punches and then timed him and countered him and then just cut him off. I was like, this is impressive. That's exactly the type of fight that he needed. And I'm just wondering, let's go back to this. Jermell has not fought since last May when he stopped Castano in the rematch. So now if you're Charlo, are you taking over a year off to fight that young guy?
Might be perfect storm. Might be the perfect storm.
Yes.
If he does take it. Yeah, my buddy just said if that doesn't happen, I'd like to see Tim Tszyu and Castano fight. That would be
great, because Castano is a one-gear, one-way fighter who's a heavy pressure fighter. And, the one thing about Tim Tszyu I didn't like coming into the Gaucher fight, and I wrote about this, he's awfully upright and the chin's a little bit up there, and he got buzzed over the top. He learned something. You need to go through that type of stuff. Because I remember when Kostya got railroaded by Vince Phillips, he fell in love with his own power, and he didn't realize at that level you're going to get hit back. And he just kept running in the right hands that night, and he needed that experience. Tim Tszyu, in my view, is a learning fighter. And if I'm his camp, if Charlo doesn't want to fight him next, I would say, you know what, we're going to do our own fight. Do not allow yourself to be laid off. Continue to sharpen that knife.
That's a great point. Don't sit around waiting for Charlo if he doesn't want to fight yet. At least keep busy. Keep fight a Lubin, fight a Castano, like it's something to that extent. I couldn't agree more, Mr. Kim. I couldn't agree more. Was the press conference? I seen you were at the press conference. Was the press conference pretty live today? Or?
No, it really wasn't. But the lunch was elite. The fried chicken they served, they had this whole buffet, and I'm like, oh God, this is great. So even if Devin was late, the lunch was good. And plus, it's always good to spend time with Bob, because Bob's amazing. The guy's 92, 93 years old. Yeah. And he just pumps out one interview after another, giving you all sorts of stuff. And I like the Loma camp. Eagles Climb is a good friend of mine, so he's always a very honest guy. I don't really like going to those things anymore. I've kind of done it for years, but this one was kind of like I haven't done it in a while, and I enjoy those events. And so the only thing that ruined it is that Devin Haney showed up late, and I'm thinking, Devin, come on, man, you got to be a pro. Other sports, guys like LeBron James and Tom Brady, they show up on time. You want to get coverage. You want to be good with the media. You want to get exposure. Do your part. Show up on time. We're not asking you to do anything special. Show a little punctuality. It's not a bad thing. I really don't know how this fight's going to do from a pay-per-view standpoint, because, Johnny, it is so easy to steal pay-per-views. It really is. All you need is a computer now and the ability to type. Yeah. When I grew – Johnny, I'm older than you, but growing up, to steal a pay-per-view, you had to have this mythical thing called a black box. And I heard about it. I was like, wow, a black box. Like, where do you get those from? Indiana Jones in a treasure chest? And people will be able to steal paper. I go, you get that for free and it's not scrambled? And now he's just like, hey, send me a link. It's like,
yeah.
just that easy.
all it takes is a text or a copy and paste, and that's
yeah. And so I think it's really interesting that I know that Bob told me during the week of the Jake Paul fight, he didn't really care about it, but his company was involved in ESPN Plus. He said, we are looking if that price point helps with the buys. Now, believe it or not, that Jake Paul fight actually did very well internationally and domestically. And I think that influenced them to say, you know what, let's work in volume. Look, this is not an indictment on Tank Garcia, because if they can get $85, it's capitalism. Congratulations, you struck lightning in a bottle. But I don't know if over the long term, given what we have said, Johnny, about how easy it is to steal this, I really believe this, Johnny, and you know it's true.
Yeah.
On Twitter, when someone says after a pay-per-view announcement, this fight for $75.99, everyone says, man, I'm not watching that. I'm not buying it. Yeah, you know what that really means? I'm streaming it.
I'm streaming.
That's their way of saying, without admitting guilt, I'm going to pilfer this for free. I'm going to be a pirate like a Somali. I'm just going to take it, right? Now,
Captain Phillips.
Right. So now at maybe 55 to 60, maybe you're more inclined to say, shit, you know what? I'll pay for it. I don't know if it really makes a difference, because if you're a boxing fan, Johnny,
yeah,
sometimes the difference between 20 to 25 bucks, I don't know how much it really matters, but I've thought for a while, I don't know why boxing is so expensive to watch for the average fan, and you wonder why they are eroding the casual fan base.
Yeah, well, and even with some of the, I was talking to somebody else about this, and they were like, man, if some of the, I mean, if they weren't BS like Wilder, Luis Ortiz too, like, come on, but
yeah,
if they were like good fights, and he's like, dude, if they put these things on for 35, 40 bucks a pop, I'd buy every one of them. But I'm not gonna whip out $85 every month. That's
no,
like,
I agree. Look, and there's actually a saturation point. Look, there used to be a time when pay-per-view really meant Leonard Hearns or Mike Tyson, Mike Spinks,
right.
And then over time, as the guaranteed purses for these fighters got exorbitant, and the network budgets for the cable, the premium cable network companies began to shrink, you had no choice but to put the mid-level fight on pay-per-view. I mean, there used to be a time when George Foreman fought Michael Moore. It was on free HBO, and they put up like 10 to 12 millions of dollars. That's when their budget was really robust back in the mid-90s. People have to understand about pay-per-view. Nowadays, pay-per-view really is not about putting on the biggest, best stars. It's really about, we don't have enough money to pay for this out of our budget. Because if you look at the math, Johnny, and this is all math, even a pay-per-view at $80, okay?
Yeah.
And let's say it only does 200,000 buys, which nowadays is actually not a bad number.
Yeah.
At 200,000 buys, that is $16 million total. Half of that goes to the cable and satellite operators. People have to keep that in mind. But that is still $8 million in the pot, along with like the site fee, sponsorships, the international. So we're dealing with the base of about $8 million if you do a buy rate of $200K at $80. There is no fight that's on ESPN or Showtime or even the Zone currently, now that their money has run out from that war chest.
Yeah.
There's no license fee of $8 million that exists for any fight nowadays. That's the God's honest truth.
Yeah. So, no, I believe. And like you say, back in the day, it used to be, like if it was pay-per-view, it was like Hagler and Leonard or.
It had to be, right. And a lot of that, it's interesting that like those fights, a lot of those fights before people had pay-per-view capabilities on their cable box, they would have to be closed circuit. So you had to go to the local movie theater or a local convention hall. And then the movie theaters would not allow, or they didn't want to give up Friday and Saturday. So the big fights would happen on Mondays or Tuesday nights. And I've always said, well, wait a minute. Why come boxing is always going on Saturday? Why don't they try other nights? Other sports go on every other night, right? And they always say, well, no, boxing has to be on Saturday. it wasn't really on Saturday for 75, 80 years, Johnny. That's simply not true.
You know, and me and some of my buddies were just discussing this the other night. Why wouldn't you put, because we had the Plant Benavidez fight last week. Why wouldn't you put Ramirez Comey on Friday and have Friday night fights so they're not airing at the same time? Because I would have watched both of them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I just, something happened where Saturday became the night. But I still remember like Roy Jones, James Toney being on a Friday night in 1994.
Yeah. See,
that's a great question, but I do think that one of the things that needs to happen with boxing is there needs to be more consolidation. There's too many fights that aren't happening even now.
Yeah.
But I think, I've always said this about ESPN. If ESPN was really serious about boxing, they would actually give the same amount of money that they're giving to the UFC and Dana White. Because if you look at the money, that the license fee money, which is in the $300 million for UFC, and I believe that for boxing, it's in the low 100s to 90. Yeah. The level of fights you can make with that type of budget. Now, again, there's a difference, though. UFC has 90% of the MMA talent. Top Rank is a part of, they're like 1/4 of the leagues that exist. So it's a little bit different.
Right.
But if you actually look at ESPN, the money they spent on like the Rose Bowl or the NFL or the SEC football package, boxing is not that important to them. And I've said that for a while because according to Rick Glazer, a good friend of mine, I trust him. He's got good sources. He said that Bob was trying to push for regular ESPN to do Lomachenko against Devin Haney.
Right.
And that would have done a huge rating.
Yeah.
But obviously it didn't work out.
He did Loma Tiafimo a couple years ago on regular year.
Yeah, but remember, though, that was because of the pandemic.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so and I remember Bob telling me, there's no way right now under these circumstances that we could possibly do pay-per-view. It's not right. I said, you're right. But they did a huge rating. They did a huge rating, and what happened was Tiafimo and his father, they thought they were superstars, and I tried to tell them, guys, that rating, it comes with an asterisk. Everyone was locked down.
Yeah, and I think that kind of, speaking of that, I think that kind of came back to bite them in the ass in the next
Yes,
fight.
they did. They got very greedy. They tried to play games. They tried to outthink the situation. They lost focus. And it's really a shame what happened because I was so high on Tiafimo, but I think he's lost that magic because they never actually focused on getting better at boxing.
See, and on my old channel, because I had an old channel too, Mr. Kim, but it was a little bit bigger. But he used to come on here, Tio's dad, and we had a little falling out or whatever. I'm not going to get.
Well, yeah, you must have told the truth.
Well, it was because of somebody else, but
right.
But it was another YouTube channel, but I ain't gonna, but anyways, and I'd be like, and I would tell him, and we'd be sitting there and he'd be having a cigarette with me and shit. And I'd be like, hey man, you guys should probably, run it back with Lomachenko. Like,
or how about just fight? Fight. I mean, look, they beat Loma. It was my last couple of weeks at ESPN. So they beat him in October of 2020.
Right.
I remember telling the father, because I was very close to them at that time, hey, I said the junior, because everyone calls the father junior. The junior, next year, do what De La Hoya did after he beat Chavez. Try to fight 4 times. And ask Top Rank if they can get you on ABC. And just be reasonable. You'll blow up. You'll lap the competition. And all I got was, nah, bro. With pay-per-view, bro. With the biggest star boxing. I'm like, oh, my God. I said, Junior, no. And look what they did. They did the end around with Triller. And I know all about Triller. And then they went to the purse bid. Then they got one of the fights canceled because he got COVID. And then he outgrew the division in between all of that. And he got beat by Kambosos. It didn't have to be that way, Johnny. It didn't have to be that way.
I know. I saw the whole thing played out, and I thought he was going to be fair, I didn't see it coming with Kambosos. But
no, none of us did. None of us did, but when he was trying to wind up from his heels and literally knock him out with the first 3 punches of the fight, and then he got caught in mid-range with his hands down and that overhand right came. I remember being, oh my God, don't tell me this is the night he loses. I was
Yeah.
stunned, Johnny.
Well,
I was stunned.
I was like, he doesn't have a game plan. He's just going in there thinking he's going to knock this dude's head off in one shot. And when it doesn't work, he didn't know what else to do. I'm like, oh my, yeah. And then speaking of, as long as we brought Teofimo up real quick, and I'm sure you probably got to go soon, Mr. Kim, but what do you think of him and Taylor?
You know, this is almost a loser leaves town match, believe it or not, because
yeah,
Top Rank is probably a little bit fatigued of dealing with the drama of Teo. Taylor can't get in the ring. And I mentioned this last year. Taylor doesn't fight anymore. He fights once a year at best. I thought he lost to Catterall. Let's be very clear. He got a gift against the cat. I felt bad for Jack. And then I don't understand this. Why did it take a whole year to schedule that rematch with Catterall? Just do it 5 months later. And this is what I hate about today's game. But I get the sense that Top Rank has 2 headaches and they want to get rid of one. So one of you is getting aspirin. One of you is going to get that Excedrin headache treatment. And the winner, we're going to pretend like we still love you.
Yeah.
You know what I didn't understand? A fighter that I really respect and I know very well. Very nice guy. Very solid individual. Arnold Barboza. Top 10 guy. Very good style.
Yeah.
When Teofimo beat Pedro Campa last summer in his return, there's actually footage where he comes up to Brad Jacobs of Top Rank and says, hey, Brad, and he points over at Arnold Barboza, who was there to try to call him out. I don't want to face that bum. I need someone better. And then he faces Sandro Martin, who's a worse style, who may have stunk it out and won on him. And I'm like, Teo, who the hell do you think you are?
Right.
You are not De La Hoya. You are not Floyd Mayweather.
You're not Pacquiao.
Why in the world are you looking down at Barboza, who's a legitimate contender? I just think he needs to get his head screwed on right.
Yeah, I mean, his arrogance just went through the fucking roof after that Lomachenko fight. I'm like, dude, you're not Roy Jones or Pacquiao, bro. Like, you need to dial it back a little bit, man.
Did you know that? Okay, so the Campa fight was in a tent at the Resorts World, a new hotel in Vegas. Nice venue. It's about 3,500, 4,000 seats.
Yeah.
Then the fight with Sandor Martin, they didn't even sell out the lower bowl of the Garden. So when they say they talk about we're the biggest draw, it's not true. And as of right now, Johnny, I was told this by Aram about 5.5 hours ago. Right now, Taylor against Lopez is in the theater of the Garden, not the big room. And I'll tell you why. It's because of the playoff hold of the Rangers and the New York Knicks.
Oh, okay.
So there's a chance that a really good fight that has a lot on the line could be actually in the small room of the Garden. So when they talk about we are a superstar, yes, in your own mind, not in reality.
That's about it. That's about it. Right. Yeah, I mean, and that one sounds like it's probably going to happen, from my understanding.
No, it's a done deal. Bob said it's a done deal. He did confirm that.
It is
June 10th.
Okay, right.
Oh, another fight that I love that's going to happen, just as a West Coast guy. If Oscar Valdez defeats Adam Blue Nose Lopez on the rematch on the Haney Loma undercard, Valdez is going to be paired up once again with Emmanuel Navarrete. And by the way, I thought Valdez was going to beat Navarrete in February. And when he got injured and I saw Navarrete need a 38-second count to beat that Australian kid, I felt terrible for Liam. I remember calling. I'm good friends with Valdez's manager, Frank Espinoza. And I said, Frank, it's a damn shame. You would have beat him on that night.
Mr. Kim, I was telling everybody before that, because I know, I mean, I'm not to be cocky or anything, but I do know my boxing. And I was telling everybody before that he fought the Australian kid. I'm like, Valdez is going to beat this guy, bro. Navarrete's too slow on the trigger. Valdez is going to land the left hook, man. Watch. And everybody's like, nah, Navarrete's too big. And then he went in there with the Australian kid, and he almost got beaten. Like you see, he got the 35-second count.
No, that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. And by the way, I thought it was going to be a repeat of the Burchell fight.
Yeah.
And Navarrete is one of the worst technically sound 3-division champions. I know it's like a backward thing. Look, he's a 3-division champion, but I just look at him and it's like, Jesus. I mean, it's funny. Me and Tim Bradley joke about how he's technically one of the most effective but worst-looking fundamental fighters in the world. But it works. But his lifestyle is bad. You look at his body, you can tell he doesn't work particularly hard. And if that fight was refereed more in line with the actual rules, Liam Wilson should be the WBO 130-pound champion, guys.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But it's just funny to me because, like I said before that fight, I said Valdez is going to beat this kid. Yeah. Now that they saw what happened with the Australian kid, now they're like, oh, maybe Valdez chance. I'm like, dude, I've been like I say, I don't mean to sound arrogant or anything, but I'm like, bro, I've been saying this all along, man. Like,
the worst thing you can do is to fight a fighter that had a letdown in his previous fight, because you're not going to get that version of the guy.
Yeah, right.
You know, and that's a shame. And I like Oscar. I know he went through that whole thing with the herbal tea. I mean, but look, yeah. He's a prideful guy and he's tough. And I think he's a better pure puncher than Navarrete, who swarms you with those whipping punches. But Johnny, as he goes up in weight, all of those advantages he had at 2020, 22, and 26, they evaporate into thin air.
Yeah, and not to mention, like I say, and Valdez is a lot more fundamentally sound. He's got the better amateur. Like he's crisper. He's more crisp.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm in complete agreement with you. Well, that's going to be a good little card then with him and Lopez, and then
Junto Nakatani against Maloney. And Top Rank has the deepest stable of blue chip 5-star prospects. Look, I am actually looking forward to watching some of the undercard on Saturday on ESPN Plus, because I think Abdullah Mason has major league talent. Tiger Johnson is another major league talent. Emiliano Vargas, the youngest son of Fernando Vargas, he has a lot of ability. Yeah. And when you look at those Top Rank undercards, guys like Bruce Carrington, Keyshawn Davis, Jared Anderson, Raymond Murataya, they have a wave of future champions coming down the block, Johnny.
Right. Yeah. I've heard other people say this too. The Top Rank's the best when it comes to starting these guys off and building them into the,
Yes, Bruce Trampler and Brad Goodman are masterminds, and they know when to pull the trigger. They know when to hold you back. They also know when you're a fraud. They have a great eye. They don't make a lot of mistakes. That's why they have been the most consistent developers of talent. And, I hope that Xander Zayas gets healthy soon, because this is the second fight he'll be missing in less than a year. Look, you got to get out there. Availability is ability, and I like Xander a lot, but you got to be durable and you got to be reliable. And right now, that's not been the case, but he's got a lot of talent also. Yes, so, they have a lot. Look, it's not just Nico Ali you get all the time. You're actually getting some really legitimate prospects that are going to be major players within the next 3, 4, 5 years in boxing.
Yeah, most definitely. I couldn't agree more, Mr. Kim. Yeah. What the hell? I had one. Oh, do you know who the ref's going to be for Loma, Haney, by any chance?
They haven't figured that. That'll be figured out in some sort of commission meeting next month. That has not been named. But let's hope to God it's not Kenny Payless, the discount referee. Good. I used to like Kenny so much. Good grief. What's happened to him?
Everybody after watching the thing last week, and they're like, Jesus, I hope he's not the ref for Loma, Haney. Put Jack Reese in there, or what's the fellow?
Well, Jack is California.
That's right? Steve Willis.
Steve Willis is New York. Who a referee I really like? I think is the best young referee. Harvey Dock.
Harvey Dock's
that
good.
Guy's good.
Harvey Dock's really good. Absolutely.
That guy is good. He's got great feet. He's a real boxing fan. It's so funny. So last year, I think it was during the Valdez-Stevenson fight. Mm-hmm. I'm walking around the venue, and he just comes up to me, hey, Steve, Harvey Dock. I go, what are you doing? Are you working? No, I'm just a fan. I go, you mean you just bought a ticket? Yeah, I flew in here just to spend the weekend, but I like boxing. I need to watch boxing. Really, Harvey Dock's a great guy. Really nice gentleman.
Yeah, and like you say, he's an excellent referee.
Got great footwork, man. He is smooth in there. He is very smooth.
Yeah, you'd almost think he was in there doing a few.
Yeah.
The way he moves around, I caught wind of that myself. I'm like, geez, this guy's floating around the ring like he's about to, like he's about to start throwing hands.
Now he could float like a butterfly too. And look, Kenny Bayless at one time was an elite referee, but somewhere along the time where he became the house referee of Mayweather,
yeah,
something changed.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
All I'm gonna say.
Yeah. We'll leave that one there. but yeah. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, Mr. Kim. Like I say, I don't know if you got shit going on.
No, it's good. Look, a lot of boxing going on. Anthony Joshua in the afternoon, and then you got I think Robeisy Ramirez against Isaac Dogbay is a hell of a fight. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. And you get to watch those top-ranked prospects. You'll have a lot to talk about, and I'll be watching you guys. And Johnny, I really appreciate you having me on. We'll do it again soon, brother.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for stopping by, man. Thanks for taking time out of the day, and we'll talk and we'll do it again soon, Mr. Ken.
Absolutely, brother. Have a great weekend to all your listeners.
All right, thank you. You as well. You as well, sir. Take care. He's a great dude. He's a great dude, man. I was trying. That's one of the reasons why Johnny wanted to get back on the Twitter, because Johnny likes to curse and he gets kicked off of social media all the time. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get back on the fucking Twitter, is because I can try and get shit set up like that, man. So Steve Kim's a fucking beast, bro. I want to see and like I say, Mr. Kim, he's cool. He's got a fucking sense of humor like we do. He's got a sense of humor like we do. And he knows his boxing. And the guy's been around since fucking Moses parted the seas, bro. So I was really looking, because I was like, okay, I'm going to get Tommy Morrison's wife, ex-wife, widow. And then I'm going to get Mr. Kim. And then I'm going to try and set something else up too. So yeah, he's a Tyler. He's a great. And I'm sorry if I wasn't answering some of you guys' questions in the chat, but I was into the conversation, man. I wanted to keep the conversation flowing. I wasn't going to keep looking over at the phone. So yeah, Steve's awesome, dude. He's an awesome dude, man. Real good dude. Hang on one second, fellas. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I got to get Rick Glazer on here. That would be another guy I would like to have on here, man. I want to get one of the. I know Nonito came on for a little bit, but he hasn't really been on his YouTube channel very much. I don't know what he's got going on. I'd like to get Nonito back on here just to have him on one-on-one with him too. So, and I'm sure I could, I'll sure I can get in touch at some point. But you forgot to ask him about the Snelk Oscar, for Christ's sakes. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it, brother. I missed the first 15 minutes. Well, I was talking, the first 15 minutes. For those of you who don't know, I'll just go ahead and say it. For those of you who don't know, my grandmother passed away last night. She was 94 years old. She was the Sicilian one, the one from Sicily. So I was like, fuck. I was like, obviously my first concern is my family and make sure they're all right. So I'm like, fuck, am I not going to be able to do this interview with Mr. Kim? But I got all the family shit I needed to get done in the morning taken care of. I'm like, okay, beautiful. Because I told Mr. Kim, I'm like, okay, here, just tell me the time, whatever's convenient for you. And I was like, okay, good. I can still take care of the family stuff and get Mr. Kim on here too, so I'm glad I got both done today. Yeah, thank you, fellas, dude. I appreciate thank you guys. I appreciate that, but she was a good woman, man. She was 94. She was born in 1929. Full Sicilian, full-blooded Sicilian, man. You know, that was Mama Corleone right there, bro. So was a tough one for you, boy, bro. Thank you. That was a tough one for Johnny. So I was like, fuck, I hope I can still get this done with Mr. Kim today. So I'm glad I, was able to work around it and get it both done, man. And Johnny's got all the fucking court and parole and all that other shit to deal with on top of that. So it's a little bit of a motherfucker there, fellas. It's a little bit of a motherfucker. But thank you guys for all the prayers and condolences. I really do appreciate that, man. So she lived a long, good life, man. So couldn't ask God for a better grandmother, So that's why I was like I say, I didn't want to, I didn't want to really bring that up on here, but that's what I was like. I was like, shit, So, but yeah, fellas. So that's gonna be quite the fucking card with Loma Haney, Nakatani and Maloney on the undercard, and then Valdez Lopez. That's a pretty good fucking card, man. Tyler, my pops is heartbroken. He's heartbroken. That's probably, I mean, other than seeing my grandma, that was probably the hardest part, was seeing my dad. So, he's fucking, and and he's been going through his shit with his cancer and his breathing too. So, and it's hard seeing him fucking heartbroken, bro. But thank you for asking. Appreciate it, Tyler. So yeah, Nakatani's fighting the Maloney, the Australian kid, and then Valdez is fighting Lopez. Dude, Juan, I said the same fucking thing, bro. I was like, boy, I thought Haney was gonna be a little bit, and I think Mr. Kim might have said the same thing. I thought the fucking size was gonna be a little bit bigger than that. And I know I'm a big Lomachenko guy, but that kind of made me go, huh, wait a minute here. That's why I post. Yeah, it is a good card, Brian. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know. And then he shows up late to the fucking press conference. Like, come on, man. And then bro, see, dude, I just don't like when people try to be something they're not. Devin Haney's not some fucking ghetto kid. He's not some fucking, he's not like me, bro. He wasn't fucking selling, getting arrested and selling dope when he was 15 years old. Like, he's not. So stop trying to be that, bro. Because that's not what you are, man. I don't like when people try to be something they're not. All of them boys were bigger than Loma. Pedraza, Linares, Luke Campbell. Yeah, dude, it's just like, come on, man. Like, give me a fucking break over here, dude. You ain't fucking Pastor Troy, bro. You're not fucking Pastor Troy. You're not Project Pat. You're not Juicy J. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Stop it. Yeah. I've heard Loma has been training with Shakur Stevenson. That's great preparation for him, Brian. Haney's getting smoked. Let's go, Loma. I fucking hope so. You guys. Yeah, it's no secret how big of a Loma fan I am, man. So I don't want to come at it like I'm biased. And like Mr. Kim was just telling you, there's some shit Loma's got to do in that fight to win. He can't, like just like me and Mr. Kim were just talking about, bro. He can't give away 4 rounds off the bat. He's got to come out. He's got to come out aggressive. But the thing is with it, I think Lomachenko's smart enough to realize that. I think Haney's going to win in a good fight. Yeah, that's very possible, Brian. That's very, very possible. That's very possible. That's a very good possibility. And there's also a good possibility that Lomachenko wins in a good fight too. So, and but yeah, man, it's a good card. It's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, and I think boxing's looking forward to it too. Like I say, I don't think it might not be as entertaining as Ryan Tank because I think there's going to be multiple knockdowns and shit in that fight, but I think that Haney Loma is just at a much higher level. Let's just put it. I think it's at a much higher level. There's a reason that Loma Haney is for undisputed and Tank and Ryan isn't. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I mean. Yeah, and Mr. Kim told me I didn't even fucking realize Nakatani and Maloney was on the undercard. I knew Valdez and Adam Lopez were on the undercard. I had no fucking idea that Nakatani fight was on the undercard. That's another great fight. I got Nakatani beating Maloney all day long. All day, 7 days a week, and twice on Sunday. I got Nakatani beating Maloney. So I don't know what the odds are on that fight, but if you're looking for a bet, oh, you know what I'm saying? I don't like that fucking guy, Josh. I don't sugarcoat it. I don't like him. I'm not gonna get up here and bash him. I've done that enough. But we'll just see what happens in the fight. Like I say, I think. And again, I want to reiterate the point that this is his last fight on the top rank contract, and Bob might be trying to set up Loma Shakur. And they just announced it again. This is the last fight he's doing on top rank. They didn't extend the deal. Just fruit for thought. Just fruit for thought, people. Just fruit for thought. Prediction for see, even Mr. Kim made no bones. He didn't pull no punches with that one, bro. He told you, he's like, nah, dude, I think Tank's getting him out of there in six or 7 rounds. I mean, and to be honest with you, I'm not gonna say that's who I'm picking, but that's what I'm leaning towards as well. So, yeah. Hit the fucking like. Drop the kid a super chat, for Christ's sake. Get them fucking like buttons up, for God's sake. Thank you for everybody that came on. And again, thank you for everybody that wish my grandmother. I have Tank. Brian says I got Tank. I think he'll knock him out in the later round. Yeah, it's probably sounds about right, brother. Yeah, that probably sounds about right. When I saw Loma and Devin face to face, I got the goosebumps. Yeah, I mean, I wish Haney would have taken his stupid ass fucking glasses off so they could have got some eye to eye. Because to me that's kind of like this ain't a game of poker, bro. You don't need the fucking glasses on. Like, I wanted to see Haney take the shades off so they could get some eye to eye action, but. Hey man, shit is what it is, bro. I'm looking forward to it. So, but I'm gonna wrap this up, fellas. Anybody got any last words before I call it a night? He's always calm before the execution. Oh yeah, Tyler. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Loma should have shook his. Could be, Josh. You never know. No, I'm a Packers fan and I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, but I'm everything. But everything else. But I'm a diehard White Sox fan and I'm a Blackhawks fan. But no, for football, I'm Miami and Green Bay. Miami's my AFC team. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that, fellas. Yeah. Anybody got any last words? All right. All right, guys. I will talk to you. I'll see you Saturday for the Joshua fight. Okay. God bless everybody. Have a nice night and take care. Bye bye.